Welcome, everybody, to Book Study 18 of Unfolding Consciousness, Exploring the Living Universe and the Intelligent Powers in Nature and Humans. And that's you. A big warm welcome to our new subscribers coming in from the Jeff Mara podcast. Eddie was on with Jeff last week, and it was a phenomenal hour together. Brilliant questions from Jeff as well. The subject was consciousness and the dying process, consciousness after physical death. Jeff's channel is huge, with a focus on NDEs, near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, things like that. Of that, which Unfolding Consciousness explains in extraordinary detail. As a matter of fact, here is some feedback on Eddie, on Jeff's show, from his viewers, from Jeff's viewers. So you don't have to hear it from just me anymore. All I'll say is Dr. Villamoria was an absolutely fascinating and interesting guest. I could have listened to him for hours. So much to learn about consciousness just isn't there. Your questions were very intelligent too, Jeff, and I hope we see the doctor again one day. That was from Penny. This has been one of my favorites of your guests. Such wonderful information and insights. I'm excited to read the 4 volumes from SB. Really could listen to him for hours. Very fascinating and interesting. All of it. I hope that he is invited back. Thank you for sharing, from Jermaine. Thank you, Jermaine. I really needed to receive Eddie's sage reminder that I can't get there with my intellect. It means even more coming from such an intelligent individual, from Linda H. Mumbai, music, non-physical. Wow, this is gold. Thank you, Dr. Villamoria, Jeff and Mara. Beyond brilliant, from Angela. 7 minutes in, and this is just wonderful. This is the kind of learning I crave. Proof is in the pudding stuff, from H2H. A breath of fresh air. Thank you. Please have Eddie on again. Thank you, Jeff Marr. Remember, you can get 20% off this book set by using the code I've included up above. Ebooks are on the way. I encourage all of you to ask questions, participate, and make comments about anything. This book study on unfolding consciousness is for you, and we're doing this together. So along with Eddie, I'd like to answer a question from a different video we did here on this channel, as it's applicable, and some of you may have it yourself. Antio Diego sent a question on a short video we did called Theosophy, is it a religion? Now we can substitute Theosophy with the Perennial Philosophy here. Is it a religion? Is this a religion? It is not. Theosophy, which means theos, gods, and Sophia, wisdom. Theosophy is simply divine knowledge and divine science based on fact, not faith, nor blind belief. Is it a cult? Now, I can understand how some people might think that, because when you Google Theosophy, HPB, Blavatsky's face comes up along with many other black and white dusty images from the 19th century. But Theosophy did not begin with Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, though she wrote it down. She wrote it down, one of the largest collections of the ancient teachings in recent history. But by Blavatsky's own admission, she was a scribe, a secretary. She was not the author. So don't freak out. How were the other perceived sacred texts written down? Did Buddha physically write down the sutras? Did Krishna write down the Bhagavad Gita? Did Christ write the Bible? The perennial philosophy, Theosophy, is as old as time itself. It is not a cult, though there are a few branches of the Theosophical Society who are quite insular, and some would even call elitist. Eddie has called them, quite rightly, garrulous parrots. Now, garrulous means talkative, babbling about trivial stuff, simply repeating the teachings among themselves, but very few genuinely putting these teachings into personal application. But that's human nature across the board, with churches and spiritual organizations and institutions. It's certainly not exclusive to the Theosophical Society. But Theosophy, the perennial philosophy, what is written here in Unfolding Consciousness, is not a cult. There is no leader, no dogma. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to join anything. You don't have to pay any money. No dues or fees. It's simply a way of living, a way of being. And again, Theosophy did not begin at the end of the 19th century. The Theosophical Society was formed then, but the ancient teachings are eternal and ageless. Many important texts came through at that time, like Blavatsky, Mabel Collins, William Welker Atkinson, Catherine Tingley, etc. They've all been coming through forever. Theosophy, the perennial philosophy, has been known by many names, and we've covered some of them here on this channel in these book studies, and it is illuminated in depth throughout Unfolding Consciousness. They are simply the fundamental core, the unifying thread that runs through all of the world's religions, sciences, and philosophies. These teachings, these writings, are like a textbook for humanity. Everything you need is already inside of you. Everything. Nature is the true church, and you are the temple. This wisdom of the ages is all about you. So, Antio writes, this is his question. He says, I mean this question in good faith. How do modern theosophists reconcile the modern interpretation of theosophy you put forth with some of the antiquated options and teachings of Madame Blavasky? For example, the root races, like the Lemurians, the Atlantians, and the Aryans. According to Blavatsky, these races were the ancestors of modern ethnic groups, and according to her, these would therefore be incapable of equal spiritual evolution. I've heard this before. How do modern theosophists reconcile these more pernicious elements, pernicious meaning harmful, of the ideas presented by theosophical writers that are in many ways central pillars of other later additions to the belief system? Now, I have answered this question until I am blue in the face. Blue in the face. The word race in the Theosophical writings means wave of humanity over a certain time period. It does not mean ethnicity. It does not. I've had to clarify this time and time again over the last decade, and I would also like to clarify that the term Aryan and swastika are both an ancient term and an ancient symbol that were hijacked in the middle of the last century by the Nazis. I did a video all about that on this channel, and it was banned simply for showing the original swastika symbol, which is Sanskrit. The swastika means peace, well-being, and good fortune. Aryan is also from Sanskrit, from Arya, meaning noble or distinguished. They were hijacked. So I ran this question by Eddie, and he answers. The race thing always comes up. You're quite right, that race means a wave of humanity, not ethnicity. Occult science teaches that the consciousness of humanity in its entirety passes through 7 main developmental stages, each stage being called a root race. If we bring to mind the parallel process of 7 stages that occur in the life of each human being, this is not as far-fetched as it sounds. Through each stage, the consciousness of the same person uses vehicles, bodies, of greater complexity that enable our natural capabilities and greater degrees of self-expression. I'm going to say that again. Through each stage, the consciousness of the same person, us, uses vehicles or bodies of greater complexity, meaning far more than just the physical, than what we can see here, that enable the natural or the latent potentialities, the capabilities, and greater degrees of self-expression. The developmental stages of a human being are the same for every ethnic group. We are all humans. We're planetarians. Just so, the developmental stages of the root races that have nothing to do with ethnicity, they apply to all humankind. This is another example of that Hermetic axiom. What applies on the small scale to the human individual applies on the large scale to all of humanity. Now, this gets kind of complicated here, but stay with me. Each root race is divided into 7 minor races, which in turn are then subdivided into subraces. This division is not random, as each subrace displays its unique characteristics within the overall traits of the parent root race. Eddie writes here, just as an individual teenager would display different kinds of behavior that are all characterized by adolescent traits in teenagers of all ethnic races, colors, creeds, and genders. In the human being, as we grow, there is a considerable overlapping of behaviors as we evolve. For example, between adolescence and maturity, as many parents would testify. Similarly, root races do not follow each other in sequential order with a definite crossover point, meaning they don't have an ambutational ending. They overlap. They overlap each other, and this overlapping likewise occurs within minor and what Eddie calls here branchlet races. So there's lots going on. What the timeless wisdom has informed us is that in the ancient past, humans did not inhabit or live in a body, our current coat of skin, but we existed and expressed life through a body of a much more ethereal substance, meaning we didn't have bodies. I know, it's all explained in unfolding consciousness. But we had bodies of energy without a physical form. Stay with me. So not being immersed in physicality at that time, our spiritual and psychic faculties were in operation in proportion to the inactivity or non-existence of our physical bodies. Then, over the long course of involution, that's involution, not evolution, involution, which means the progressive burial of spirit in matter. So I'm going to say that again. The progressive enmeshment, burial of spirit in matter. Our spiritual and psychic nature decreased in proportion to our bodies becoming more physical in form. The lowest point of this involutionary cycle, meaning the deepest immersion in matter of spirit into the physical body, occurred during the latter stages of the fourth, which was the Atlantis root race. It's all explained in here in great detail, all of it. From then onwards began the slow evolutionary cycle of the release of spirit from the bondage in matter, which science studies exclusively at the physical level. Damn it. Thank goodness for occult science. Then, as we are told, after eons, humanity will arrive at the same point of our original spirituality, but only this time in full self-consciousness, as opposed to our natural state of the condition earlier, the same condition earlier. So listen to this. We are cycling backwards, returning to our earlier state of spirituality by cycling forwards in our evolutionary development. Listen, this shows that the early races were more spiritual, not less, as Antio mentions. Blavatsky informs us that present-day mankind is cycling forwards in order to cycle back on a higher turn of the spiral. We're going forwards, going up. As Eddie said earlier, for having lost long ago in spirituality that which mankind acquired in physical development until almost the end of the fourth root race. We are now in what is called the fifth root race. And we are gradually and ever so slightly now losing the physical, i.e. in physicality, in order to regain once more our former faculties in spiritual re-evolution. This process must go on until the period which will bring in the sixth root race on a parallel line with the spirituality of the long extinct era of mankind. I know this might sound confusing, but it is important and it's all explained in Unfolding Consciousness. Stick around. There's way more where this came from. Eddie says the Bulgarian master Peter Dunov, otherwise known by his spiritual name Benisa Duno, spoke of the transitional state between two states or conditions. In 1944, he said, "We are crossing the boundary between two epochs and entering the new epoch." The new epoch refers to the transition from Kali Yuga, which is said to last 432,000 Earth years, and some of you will be familiar with the term Kali Yuga. The fourth and present age of the world cycle of yugas, or ages, is what yugas means. It is the end of the four ages that comprise a cycle, and it is often referred to as the Dark Age, or a time of great suffering. The Kali Yuga leads to eventual destruction of the world order before a creation of the new cycle. Dunov continues, people all over the world of all nations and races are now forming the nucleus of a new race with a new understanding. From the Secret Doctrine 1, page 612, it is written that we are at the close of the cycle of the present Aryan Kali Yuga, during which there will be a large rent made in the veil of nature and materialistic science will receive a death blow. Thank God. The subject of root races is absolutely, inextricably connected with that of race cataclysms, global disasters, as in the biblical flood narrative in the book of Genesis, chapters 6 to 9, and similar accounts from other religions and cultures worldwide. So it is not Blavatsky's invention, as Dunov also says much of the same thing in his outline. And to Antio's comment, Eddie says, about pernicious elements added by later theosophical writers, Blavatsky can no more be blamed for what later writers said, if genuine theosophical writers said anything pernicious at all, any more than Christ can be blamed for the way the church and parliament in England use sayings from the Bible to justify the slave trade. Well said, Eddie. And thank you, Antio, for your question. All comments and questions are welcome here in our book study sessions. Please, please, please drop a line, send a comment, your thoughts, what you'd like to know about. I'm trying to pick little things from the book that we can move forward with. So keep an eye out too. Eddie and Unfolding Consciousness will be appearing on more podcasts and YouTube channels in the next couple of weeks. And we're here in March 2023. You'll be seeing him on the Paul Chek podcast. The Theosophical Society of America is having a conversation with Eddie. He'll be doing a presentation there. Next Level Soul with Alex Ferrari, as well as Love Covered Life with Melissa Denise. So hopefully more of you will be joining us here for our book study sessions on Unfolding Consciousness, Exploring the Living Universe and Intelligent Powers in Nature and Humans. Again, next week, I think I'm going to do the near-death experience. That's huge. We're going to talk about that. Everything and anything is covered in this 1,000-page text. It is 4 volumes, and I'm holding up a different one today. This is volume 3. Whew, Eddie holds nothing back, absolutely nothing back. Volume 3, Gazing Through the Telescope, Man is the Measure of All Things. This is science, philosophy, religion. This is all of the sages through the ages. It's all compiled and referenced. Book 4 is actually a resource and reference manual for all of the 3 volumes, and where you can, if something ticks your box and you want to study it more, all the links online where you can take your studies and go from there. Unfolding Consciousness, to me, is like the secret teachings of all ages for our new millennium. And I believe it is incredibly important to get these teachings out into the world on these free book studies. Ebooks are coming soon. Remember, if you'd like to get a copy of the set, you can save 20%. Get your library to get a copy so everybody has access to this. Schools, institutions, get a copy of it so people can reference it. That's what it's for. It's hardback with beautiful pictures inside, and it's not something you take to the beach. It's just not something you take on a plane to go read on vacation. You need to have it as a reference manual for your library or a library. You can get 20% off by using UC Book Study. That gets you the code at the Shepherd Walwyn website, and ebooks, again, are being constructed as we speak. I love you very much, and I will see you next week. Mwah.